Hello ladies and gentlemen, we had KC versus G2. Leading up to the match we had a little bit of drama. I wanted to give my 2 cents because of course I have experience coaching in the region for so many years, coaching in competitive. From my perspective, I do think that joining lobbies for information that are password protected is kind of rat behavior, regardless of how trash or commonly known the password is. In Rodrigo's defense, everyone seems to be doing it. That's what was said. Back in my days, 2016, 2017, I remember I had a situation where there was an analyst from H2K that was just joining lobbies to get the rune information on players, because back then you had runes and you could kind of guess what champion people were practicing, and it's kind of a scummy way of getting information that you shouldn't have access to. I don't think the justification that you know the password that makes it, gives you freedom and gives you the right to enter. It's kind of like saying, your lock has a bad door, so I can just go in and watch you sleep. Just because, I can break in and enter your door, and it's very easy for me to just pick the lock. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I understand from Rodrigo's perspective because he mentioned that KC does this, all the other teams do it. I think regardless, I think it's just rat behavior. I think it's rat behavior. I think it's shit. I don't think it's competitively sound. I think it's cheap. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Nevertheless, a bit of a nothing burger. They just wanted to figure out, how much is scrimming with Niski, how much is scrimming with Vladi. If KC really wanted to protect that information, they could have closed that off. But also KC, from their perspective, them stirring up a little bit of a drama about this makes a speculation about who plays Niski versus Vladi a little bit more open. From what I understood, I don't think there was a chance that Niski played, even though maybe there's justification due to, of course, KC's play patterns, that maybe there is a reason that he should be playing. But my understanding is that Niski wouldn't be playing regardless, and Vladi just is the person that they want to lock in. But enough about that. Let's talk about the main issues of KC and why G2 completely destroyed and manhandled them. This game was a perfect example. A big issue for KC, in my opinion, is how sporadic and random Yike's decision making is. It seems like his early games kind of have reverted back to what we saw in G2 times. Here in this situation, Jarvan is clearing into top, so him level 3 ganking bot is going to be heavily punished. In a world where he breaks only the flash here, he's going to not get enough value. G2 managed to crash a wave, and for Ezreal, at base at this moment in time is perfectly fine. The wave is bouncing and the wave is not freezing, so the value of this gank is very, very limited. It's close to none in comparison to the punishment. As you can see, Jarvan is taking the blue, and Jarvan has full initiative. He's taking the blue. He's going to get crab as well at 330. He's going to cross into bottom side, get the crab, and during this segment here, while Pantheon needs to clear his camps, Jarvan is going to have a big timer to gank into bot. And as mentioned before, G2's bot lane managed to crash wave 3, which means that the wave number 4 bounced, and G2 are the ones now contesting the crash of KC, which means that Jarvan is going to, of course, break them completely. And this is super important in order to, manage expectations. Maybe there's a world where Caliste and Targamas should be trading more actively in order to make the bot lane more volatile, trade sums actively, fight really hard, make HPs drop to level, very, very low numbers, so Pantheon can come in and flash and maybe have potential more impact. In this case, the wave crashed fine, and then in the end, KC were the ones deep in trouble. And I think this is one of KC's issues, is that I think the early games are a little bit too random and not planned out, which makes everything a little bit too sporadic, and they come out of a lot of early games in disadvantageous positions. Because already now, if you think back to what happened, Jarvan is super far ahead, bot lane is really chilling because they have a base advantage, and also Caliste and Targamas don't have sums already. Another very important detail about KC's gameplay pattern is the fact that they isolate their solo laners from the game, and they don't sync together with the rest of the map in order to just contest objectives and, of course, space. We're going to have a moment here where Drake is going to spawn in about 1 minute, and just pay attention to how G2 managed to sync up their recalls and make sure that they are in good condition to set up for this objective. Going to have Caps harass a little bit longer, and then he's going to look for the base. He's going to base in the middle of the wave, and Galio is going to do the same thing. A crucial difference here is that Caliste feels strong because obviously he has Essence Reaver against Ezreal's lack of items. In this moment, Galio is TPing on the mid wave rather than, of course, TPing together with his teammates that are actively contesting river. Here you can choose. You can choose, of course, to contest through bottom side and play. You can choose to let Galio push this wave and then play. but KC just rush a little bit too fast, and then Labrov gets the chain on Caliste, and Galio is not in position to play. You can see that KC is clearly desynced on what they want to achieve here, but when, you know, looking at items, we see that G2, like KC in this spot, is so much stronger. Look how much stronger the Pantheon is, look how much stronger the Lucian is, look how much stronger the Gali even is. Road of Ages needs time to stack and so forth. You know, this should be a dream fight for, of course, KC, but they're just not on the same page about what they want to achieve. This fight goes in, of course, G2's favor. You could argue that Caliste maybe should flash to make sure to break the chain, and he could buy a little bit more time and maybe invite and engage. It could be played better, but I just wanted to highlight this as G2 being very, very in sync about what they need to contest and what they need to play for and what they need to give up. Caps with the short Rise ultimate. And so we're going to have, this is another very, very crucial point for KC. G2, Caps is going to flash forward over the bubble to look for a play, and now Caps is going to be flashless for a solid 5 minutes. With Pantheon, Galio, what you want to look for, of course, is proactive plays on side in order to punish a Rise that has no flash. You have the CC chain, you have the globals to have ease of access. Let's see how G2 maneuver around it and how KC look for a potential punish. So here we're going to see that Lucian and Nami are going to base first. Ezreal is pushing now currently, which means that the tempo of course, Lucian and Nami is going to be better. Lucian is fresh on bot lane, and Nami and Pantheon are opening up on the map. The main question here is, how are they going to look to contest? Yike has items still, he has ultimate, and he's ready to pretty much rock and roll. Let's see how Caliste and Targamas are going to actually pressure. Here in my mind, I think they are a little bit too tunnel visioned on, of course, the item spike that they're looking for Nami. I think in moments like these, on waves like these, this is where you want to fight to the death. I don't understand why Caliste takes the defensive path while Rise has to catch bot lane. Like, this is the type of moment where you want the Lucian to dash on the Ezreal, fight on the Ezreal, because this is the moment where you have a massive tempo swing. Pay attention to where G2 is on the map. Jarvan base late, Ezreal base late, and you have man advantage on the mid wave. This is where you want to pounce. You want to do a deep Pantheon ult, you want to do a Lucian dash, because right now this is the moment where G2 is, of course, very, very blind. And if you don't use opportunities like this to gain traction in the game, the enemy then pretty much got to base for free. So in this moment they have full vision bottom side. They see Rise on bot lane. Caliste not dashing forward still. I'm not so sure why. G2 get to posture aggressively while Jarvan is not even on the map and doing wolves. There is no tools being burnt, and now Vladi is crossing into bottom side. Here after Ezreal Karma got the mid prio, they step into river and they sync up together with Jarvan to clear the vision and make sure that this Rise, it can contest a neutral wave with the backup of course, Karma and Jarvan. And the vision setup that, of course, G2 set up here, you can see the vision on top side and also the vision on bottom side, means that Hansama can posture aggressively. And if he sees that the enemy Lucian is not posturing aggressively on him, that information is massive. If Lucian is not actively dashing forward on the mid wave, it means that Nami is in base looking to get the Imperial Mandate, which means that Hansama can push it to get the prio. It's not necessarily that Hansama is looking to fight, he's looking to get information by reading how Lucian is playing. And in that moment, just because they didn't punish and they got the wave, Hansama is pushing aggressively on the wave. They can now safely assume that Nami is in recall base, and there is no play on bottom side. Caps now fully free to push, and Karma just goes for a recall in this moment. Jarvan retreats and clears the camps, and you can see this is how they keep the tempo. Labrov has put full vision, and his solo lanes and Ezreal are perfectly fine and safe to contest the neutrals, which means that Karma can go for a free base and recover the wards. Hansama still pushing the mid waves, Caliste is still not dashing forward, and as you can see in these moments, there is never a level of aggression on the Ezreal to break or the Rise to break. And you can see here Caps does also a very nice read where he just waits and waits and waits, and he's waiting for some kind of information, and at some point he just kind of understands that, oh, I'm guessing now that Galio based, and then he's just going to walk on the wave, hard push it as Jarvan and Karma are crossing into river. And this is something that G2 do so well. Very frustrating to play against because they're always stealing those waves and they are reading the information super well, making sure that the Riot steals waves, making sure that Ezreal steals waves, and they don't need to send multiple people to do so. First, they get the vision, they get the information, Karma recalls, keeps the tempo, and in that window and on the exit, Jarvan is clearing his camps. rather than doing so first, and they're always in sync. Here is once again one of those windows for KC. We already have pretty much half the duration of the flash cooldown gone. They're going to try to like posture here on the mid wave, but I don't understand why they are so unwilling to just use some of their tools. They don't rotate, you know, they don't get value out of the Lucian Army. We have Imperial Mandate, item advantage against the Karma, you have Pantheon ult as well. This is the moment where you should be free to actively dash forward with Lucian, look to do cullings and, you know, proc the Mandate and do a lot of damage. But these are the opportunities they just simply don't take. Here, Vladi is crossing into mid because they don't have any vision in river, which is really good. And this is the moment where they should actively play. Like, Pantheon should look to ult here, and they should look to fight, rock and roll. And this is how they create kind of disparity in the position. They want to create imbalances. They want to create unevenness because Lucian Army gets value in the in-between. Pantheon gets value in the in-between. When I say in-between, I mean between the 5 minutes between Drake and Drake, right? There's a lot of action to be had. Some teams don't want that action, some teams want that action. Here, Pantheon, Lucian Army, they need to get value in the in-between. Otherwise, you know, in pure team fights, the value of the ult and the value of the poke is going to be far less. But here, Karma and Ezreal gets to go bot lane and go play bot side so freely. They are just looking to play the Herald. That's why there's no contest on the mid wave, but they are not using, you know, Galio's timer. And when they don't use Galio's timer, it means that bot side river is going to be closed, which means that the trade setup is going to be very easy, because here Yorick has prio, and the distance that Ezreal, like Lucian and Nami, need to cover in order to cross and punish Yorick is too much. And of course Yorick has Ninja Tabi, so he is very happy if Pantheon is going to ult on him, which means, you know, he can predict easily that Pantheon is not going to ult on his forehead when Nara's not mega, and he has Tabi, so even if he can flash out, he's going to create so much space for the game that he can play aggressively on the wave. Very deep wave, and here, another crucial detail what G2 do so well. Pay attention to Yorick recall, Ezreal recall, Ryze recall. Jarvan Karma open on the map already, Karma basing super early to keep the tempo up. We see here that the KC side, both Canna and of course Vladi, they're going to stay to push another wave. And sure, they get another wave, maybe it impacts the base, maybe it doesn't, but look how much faster on the map the Yorick is and the Ryze is. They're going to now be able to push the waves deep because they can safely assume that the enemy team needs to recall on both solo laners. And now as the enemy tries to cross and they are too late on this mid wave, you can see that there's no play at all. Finally, the Pantheon ult comes through, but Hans Sama can easily heal out of it. Ryze is already pushing top. The Galio hover once again wasted, and Lucian has no value from his culling. Nami didn't get any value in the in-between too. Drake is spawning, but Hans Sama could easily just heal out of the only play that KC did, and that was proactive. They missed a lot of windows, and now Galio's hover once again wasted because Caps just pushed top for free because his tempo is so much better. He has a TP advantage. He is, of course, top, while Yorick is bot, and Yorick already pushed out bot lane as well. And now Vladi is scrambling to kind of catch this wave. And then when Vladi shows Caps is hovering one time, and he's just checking if his team is doing Drake for free. And then he notices, oh, my team is doing Drake for free. No problem, I can keep pushing because Pantheon ult was just wasted from the enemy team. So the main thing that G2 do to outmuscle people, and also that really highlights, you know, KC's biggest weakness is like how they recall together, how they use their windows to pressure, and how they use their windows to fight. G2 are very much in sync, and you have basically 3 lanes that are actively posturing to gain information. They're not looking to fight, they're not looking to fight, like get duels to the death. They are constantly chin-checking the enemy to kind of get info about what the state of mind is for the enemy team. If Lucian Army and Pantheon clear the vision around mid and they are actively dashing and pressuring Ezreal, that makes for a way more awkward game, and Galio's hovers then become impactful because he doesn't win the lane in the 1v1 against the Ryze. But if Galio is hovering and there's no junglers coming to him, he's just a useless champion. I think when KC lock in Galio, it's a big signal that they are going to have a very weak game, because this is, of course, a big part of their problem. Looking at what KC do well, there's no coincidence that the only game that KC won was the one where they had a strong teamfight draft and where the enemy objective is to break your top laner. Canna did a great job of never dying. the great job of managing the wave always in a situation to make sure that he could never die to the Poppy, never die to any LeBlanc roams, nothing at all. And if Rumble maintains the identity of being a mountain, KC can then get to team fights, and that is of course a situation they should be stronger in. The enemy composition is of course super good in the in-between to be proactive and find plays, which is something that G2 did throughout the game. But in the end, you still have to face the music, which is the team fights, and that is going to be super difficult when the enemy has Canna, Rumble, Orianna, Nautilus against your Poppy, and Kled and so forth. Kled not being ahead of the curve is of course a big problem. And if KC can be in positions where they scale well and they team fight well, I do think that KC can find angles and potentially play. I think what they should really look for is like Ivan games, Maokai games, just make jungle a scaling role with the Zyra, just pick plants really, and set yourself up for success by just having stronger teamfight compositions. Be wary of making sure that Vladi also plays something scaling, because I think when he has to play Annie, Galio, these proactive champions, you're doing a massive disservice to what his skill set is and putting him on champions that maybe Niski should be playing if you sub him in. And then before we wrap up, I think it's important to also highlight this tragedy, because it seemed like KC understood what the memo was. They understood, yo, we pick Azir Maokai, we traded for the Yunara, we're going to have a scaling composition, put Vladi on his strength, and then somehow we end up in a situation where, after picking Azir Maokai 1-2, still managed to draft champions that get outskilled. They picked Azir Maokai, followed up by Jace, instead of picking Bard or Aatrox into, of course, Yunara and Sion showing, and also Braum, which to me is crazy talk. Like that's just straight up crazy talk. And by the time they see Braum being in the support role, sending Maokai into the Braum is also crazy, because this is where you're supposed to get the scaling pick. The Braum is very punishable by range champs, and this is the angle where maybe you could play like a Soraka in this game. The enemy has very limited engage, you could play Soraka in this spot, and you can create circumstances with your scale bets. I think if they went either Aatrox or Bard on 3 instead of the Jace would have been a lot better too, because the invited value for the Sion. Canna's very comfortable on the Jace, but at the same time I think Jace is just not a strong enough champion. And this game was of course also a massive tragedy. We had a BrokenBlade fight here on top side, and then Canna with the flash kept posturing forward. Skewmond got his abilities on cooldown, and even Canna, who has been an MVP candidate for the whole year, also is not like he can also make mistakes pretty much. This game exploded very quickly. I just think the bot lane matchup with the Jhin Maokai is just atrocious to play. I don't know what kind of traction you want in the game. And then you have the Ziggs counter pick into, of course, the Azir, which is super nice. And then you're in a situation where, you have a shit bot lane matchup. Your Jace died top in the 2v2, which we only picked Sejuani for the sake of that. And then now you're here. And Casey's prep work, awful. Teamwork, awful. We saw something similar in winter when they won, where they lost against, of course, G2 in a very convincing fashion, where we had insane Anivia counterpick into Ryze Sion and all that jazz. So maybe there's some hope, but the only concern for me is that KC's team play and their macro has just been on a constant level of stagnation. Like, it's not improving at all. So let me know what you guys think. Props to G2 for playing super well. They look like the winner for sure, unless we get some serious choking action in the finals. Let me know what you guys want me to review next. Thank you and peace.